Thank you very much, Alan. More of your stories. I found that maternal one I was looking for. I lived in Berlin for 1 year. I was standing at the traffic lights and I wanted to cross the street, and a woman was standing next to me. She looked at me for a long time. Then she came right up to me and said, "Are you single? My son is looking for a wife. And if you had children, they would look lovely." She was being deadly serious. I was 19 years old. Did she really think this approach might succeed? That was one mother's attempt. Now it's your turn to become the agony aunts and agony uncles. I'm supposed to go on a first date with a guy on Friday. The thing is, I'm currently not feeling like it at all. It's not the guy's fault. I've just been single for a while and feel tired and jaded by the whole process. I truly don't know whether to cancel and chill at home or just go. Any advice?
Just go!
Make some noise if you think he or she should go on the date. Well, you have the Volkstheater audience's seal of approval, and I will add to their advice. Do you know what? You have much more interesting lives if you say yes rather than no. What's the worst that can happen? And who knows, you might be here next year saying, "Thank you, audience, we've just got engaged." Who knows? Stranger things. Listen, at my Queer Folks Tales show in Edinburgh, we have had 2 relationships starting. So, not only fabulous stories, but a free matchmaking service thrown in. This is apparently a true story. Are you ready? I once had a hedgehog that I nursed back to health over the winter, and every night I had to look for him. He would disappear into beds, Barbie boxes, wardrobes, until one night he discovered the toilet. That's where I caught him red-handed, making passionate love to the toilet brush. After that, finding him in beds or wardrobes became quite traumatic for me, and the bathroom doors were always shut. And the last of your stories for this round. One time, I asked for a lash lifting for my birthday, and my grandma said she would get me a voucher if I sent her the address of the beauty salon I wanted to get it at. So I thought it was done with that, but on my birthday, she told me the story behind the voucher. Because at first, she didn't quite find the location, and then she saw a building with the words salon on it. So she walked in, and some well-dressed women wearing a lot of makeup were in there, and she didn't think anything of it because it seemed like the right amount of makeup for a beauty salon. And she asked one of them for a voucher. And it was then that she looked closer at them and realised this was another sort of salon. And it was the story of my birthday party and a good laugh imagining my grandma asking for a voucher in a brothel. More of your stories later. Are you ready for your next big story of the evening? Please welcome back to the stage, Romana Carén.
My great-grandmother was born in 1911 in Oldendorf. You know the village in the South Burgenland? It's the second biggest scattered settlement in Austria. She was the daughter of Isidor and Anna, both stemming from grand farming dynasties. Her older brother had died during World War I, and unfortunately there's no one alive who remembers his name. She also had a younger brother, Ernest, and while I don't know what happened to him, I remember him from when I was little, so he made it through the wars. Many families lost at least one loved one during those senseless wars. A father, a brother, a son, a friend. And those who returned were traumatized and merely a shell of their former selves. Die Josefa, or Pepe Oma, as we call her, I knew was not exactly what you would describe as warm or particularly kind. She was rigorous, and she made sure that rules and routines were followed, while her daily rhythm was dictated by the seasons. You see, for most of her life she didn't have electricity, and candles were rationed throughout the wars and after. So when it got dark, it was bedtime for her. Her farmhouse was what we would describe as a typical square yard. On one side, there were the stalls. Then there were the tractors on the second side and the heavy machinery. And then the stairs down to the fruit press and the wine cellar. And then there was a rather modest part where Josefa and her husband Marcos lived together until his passing in the early 1980s. That wing was entered through a heavy wooden door, leading directly into the kitchen that hosted a dining table and a hutch. And on that hutch there was always at least one bottle of digestive bitter. And when they were not working outside, this was the room where they spent most of their time. I remember that room as rather dark, because it had only 2 small windows and this beautiful tiled stove. The sole source of heat for the entire wing. When you retreated to one of the 2 bedrooms, yes, they slept separately, then you got a hot brick put under your duvet so that you wouldn't freeze during the night. These duvets were thick like that. And as a child, I was actually scared to suffocate under them because I couldn't move under them. But I digress. The story I actually want to tell you is about my great-grandmother's great love. It's always hard to imagine someone you always just knew when they were already old, or that was what I was thinking at the time, as someone who was as brightly and lively as we all were in our early 20s, and hopefully still are. And I can only imagine how she felt when she fell in love with Franz. How they cheekily flirted with each other and exchanged words of admiration. How they snuck into the woods or hid in a straw loft. How he picked flowers for her from the rich meadow and touched her ankle that peeked out from under her dress. How they smiled at each other, understanding each other without words. How he made her laugh and filled her with happiness we would never get to see in her face. Rumor has it that this love resulted in a child. And it could have all been so beautiful if only Franz had not already been married. Divorce was not an option, and I'm not sure if he ever took responsibility for his love child. Pepe, a devoted Catholic who prayed every morning and every evening and went to church religiously, faced the dark future of a single mother, shamed by society and carried the entire responsibility for an action that had involved the two of them all by herself, like so many other women in the world, even today. The boy was hidden from the world for 3 years, until Pepe surprisingly married Marcus, who then became the legal father of the boy. A very unhappy marriage. And I have deep sympathy for my official great-grandfather, because she took her frustration about not being able and allowed to be with the man she really loved out on him. They ran the farm he had inherited together, but there was no love lost on him. He was never good enough. She must have suffered terribly. And this is not an excuse for her mean behavior towards Marcus or anyone else she ever mistreated, but an attempt to understand where she came from. This woman was deeply hurt, and she lived with heavy sadness throughout the majority of her life, without any hope or perspective to ever get what she really desired. When Franz died, she stood at his grave with a single red rose, and she couldn't stop crying. She didn't care about what others were thinking or saying. Grief devoured her. She screamed his name. People can be mean and judgmental. And I wonder if she had been treated with more kindness and compassion, would my memories of her be fonder. With more life experience, I reflect differently on my great-grandmother than when I was young and my own moral compass was only seeing black and white. But I have learned life comes in all facets of colors, and at the end of the day we all sit in a glass house, and we should rather not throw the first stone until we know the full story. I will never know Pepe Oma's full story, but I have empathy for the woman who loved someone her entire life and was prevented from being with him because of society's norms and restrictions. I wonder if something like this could happen today. Do we have the freedom to really choose? Or are we still limiting ourselves by what society has indoctrinated into us? When a woman has a child out of wedlock, she will no longer be shunned by society, but she will still be shamed if she's the other woman. She still shall be burnt. I wonder if we will ever appreciate love as something no one should ever be ashamed of. If only we could embrace it without ifs and buts. Thank you.